This is Did You Do It? It's November 18th, 2018, and I'm just kind of laying the groundwork for my next video. I'm going to do some reading. Sorry about that in advance. And this is an article written by Derry Brownfield. It's called Our Land, Collateral for the National Debt. It was originally printed on August 17th, 2007. And here we go. I consider Wayne Hague one of the most intelligent men I ever met. On our very first visit, he was explaining the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and how the world bankers planned on collateralizing the world debt with land. Not just the U.S. national debt, but the world debt. A listener sent me a copy of a report of the Fourth World Wilderness Congress, which was held in Denver in 1987. Over 1,500 people from 60 countries were told that wilderness lands were to protect the reindeer, the spotted owl, and other endangered species. 90% of the group consisted of conservatists, ecologists, and government and the United Nations bureaucrats. The other 10% were world banking heavyweights such as David Rockefeller, Edmund Rothschild, and the Secretary of U.S. Treasury James Baker, who gave the keynote address. George Hunt, an investment counselor, served as the official host and sat in on all the meetings. It was George Hunt that wrote the report from which I have gleaned much of my information. During the first 3 days, the group was told that the Wilderness Congress was about beating the ozone deterioration and bringing the rainforests back. The following days were closed to the public. With only the bankers in attendance, the topics discussed centered around the creation of a World Conservation Bank, with collateral being derived from the receipt of wilderness properties throughout the world. This bank would have central bank power similar to the Federal Reserve. It would create currency and loans and engage in international discounting, countertrade, barter, and swap actions. Rothschild personally conducted the monetary matters and the creation of this World Conservation Bank. This bank would refinance by swapping debt for assets. A country with a huge national debt would receive money to pay off the debt by swapping the debt for wilderness lands. The plan was to swap $1 trillion of third world debt into this new bank. In the long term, when the countries won't be able to pay off the loans, governments from around the world will give title to their wilderness lands to the bankers. George Hunt wrote, "Title to the lands will go to the World Wilderness Land Inventory Trust. This trust will float into the World Conservation Bank by the unanimous decree of the world's people saying, 'God bless you for saving our reindeer.'" Those people at the Congress were ignorant. They don't suspect anything. They're very naive. Not stupid, ignorant. I'm talking about the 90% that were not the world banking heavyweights. Hunt goes on to say that World Bank loans, as they stand now, are not collateralized. They're saying, we want collateral. So when we loan swap this debt, we are going to own this Amazon if you default. They're going to make the bad loans good by collateralizing them after the fact with all this land, and somebody is going to end up with title to 12.5 billion acres. They have multi-trillions of dollars upon which they can create currencies and loans, and they're going to begin to barter and counter-trade and loan swap against the United States. The World Conservation Bank is a scheme to monetize land. This will function as a world central bank, and out of that bank will grow a one world fiat currency. This isn't some scheme conjured up during the Bush's and Clinton's administrations. The United Nations World Commission on Environment and Development was created in 1982. The Commission published the BRUNDTLAND report, setting the stage for unlimited enactments to take over ecology and environmental and pollution laws throughout the world. The report stated, "We will have a proposal for very harsh, quasi-spiritual ecological laws for Mother Earth. A Mother Earth comes first mentality will arise throughout the world." When James Baker made his keynote speech in 1987, he stated that no longer will the World Bank carry this debt unsecured. The only assets we have to collateralize are federal lands and national parks. Baker's definition of federal lands includes heritage sites, of which there are about 20 in the United States. I say about 20 because they are being added on a regular basis. As I write this article, Congress is about to vote on a proposed Rim of the Valley National Park that would include over 500,000 acres of national forest land and 170,000 parcels of private property, including many farms and ranches. At the time there is a bill before Congress at this time called the Northern Rockies Ecosystem Protection Act that would increase the acreage of designated wilderness by 50% in the lower 48 states. While our heritage sites take in quite a large amount of territory, such as Yellowstone National Park and Mesa Verde and Grand Canyon and the Everglades, other countries have much greater areas. Brazil, for example, has the Amazon Conservation Complex, and Canada has the Canadian Rocky Mountain Parks. As I write this story, the list includes 851 properties in 141 countries, comprising over one-third of the Earth's land mass. Will all this land collateralize the world debt? Probably not, so long as it comes the NAIS, the National Animal Identification System. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, the first step in implementing the National Animal Identification System is identifying and registering premises that are associated with the animal agriculture industry. In terms of the NAIS, a premise is any geographically unique location in which agricultural animals are raised, held, or boarded. Under this definition, farms, ranches, feed yards, auction barns, and livestock exhibitions and fair sites all are examples of premises. That may be the definition some government bureaucrat will give you when the word premises under the International Criminal Court Act 2002 Section 4 states, the word premises includes a place and a conveyance. Why check with the International Criminal Court Act? Because on June 8, 2007, Under Secretary of Agriculture Bruce Knight, speaking at the World Pork Expo in Des Moines, is quoted as saying, "We have to live by the same international rules we are expecting other people to do." All right. Throughout the entire draft National Animal Identification System User's Guide, land is referred to as a premises and not property. A premises has no protection under the Constitution of the United States, while property always has the exclusive rights of the owner tied to it. Property rights are protected by the 5th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. The word premise is a synonym for the word tenement. A definition of the word tenement in law is property such as land held by one person, leasing it to another. Webster's New World Dictionary, 1960 College Edition, defines premises as the part of a deed or a lease that states its reason, the parties involved, and the property in conveyance. Webster then defines conveyance as the transfer of ownership of real property from one person to another. It is quite obvious that the bureaucrats in Washington had a very good reason to use the term premises and never mention property. Let's take another look at the wilderness areas and the World Bank's plans to collateralize its loans. While the wilderness areas cover about one-third of the Earth's surface, they are wilderness areas for a good reason. They were useless or difficult to homestead, farm, or use in a constructive manner. Worldwide, the best and more valuable land is occupied by farmers, ranchers, and people with the ambition to produce. Wouldn't the world bankers rather have some productive property than mountains, deserts, or swamps? I am convinced that the word premise will put an encumbrance on your deed. The bankers say that they want to monetize land. It's your land and my land they want to monetize. The bankers are in process of accumulating the wealth of the world. Very few privately owned assets can be termed real wealth. According to the Scripture, God made Abraham very wealthy, giving him land, cattle, silver, and gold. Genesis 24:35. 4,000 years later, wealth continues to be land, cattle, silver, and gold. I don't know where the world deposits of gold are stored. I do. I don't. But I'm sure that the bankers have them in control. That only leaves land and cattle, which I believe could be next on the list. Genesis 47 describes how Joseph had storehouses full of grain to feed the people, but he didn't have a welfare program. During the first year of the famine, Joseph took all of the money the people had for only 1 year's supply of grain. The second year, he took all their cattle for another year's supply of grain. The next year, they said, "We have nothing left but our bodies and our land. Buy us and our land in exchange for food, and we and our land will be servants to the Pharaoh." Genesis 47:21 states. And as for the people, he removed them to the cities and made slaves of them. James Madison made a statement concerning how our people could lose our freedom by gradual and silent encroachment of those in power. It is possible that those in power today are gradually and silently in the process of removing the people to cities to make slaves of them. Federalizing our land and our cattle would certainly be a step in that direction. Now I'm going to give you a link to this here. I'm going to conclude this video, but I'm going to do another video right behind this one that, well, it's going to knock your socks off. So did you do it?